you've said correctly, in the rest of of um, of the economy and so on. So, SOYA 2020, what is it going to look like? SOYA 2020 will take place, but obviously under a completely new um, setup. So we will really not have awards in the sense of it, because they have not been competitive sports throughout the year. Remember, SOYA is a recognition and awards of January to January, no, January to December of each year under review. So, COVID broke in March. We were hardly a month into the new sports year when COVID struck. And it struck so strongly that people scampered, and sports was one of the very first casualty. Obviously, sports being a contact event mostly. So, and again, you know, unlike SARS that happened in Asia in a few years ago, this one got everyone across the world. I was saying the other day that this is the only period in human history where every human being, virtually, is wearing a mask across the world. Whether it's in Asia, the American continent, Africa, and what have you. So this has been something that has been across the board. So SOYA. SOYA, therefore, will take place in January 2021, but like I said, under a completely different arrangement. So it will be basically the coming together of the fraternity of SOYA in a 2-day event to take stock of what has happened in the year under review, and also then to basically project what is going to happen in 2021. Is it going to be an Olympic year? And even that, how is it going to happen? And so on and so forth.
Yes. I mean, those are some of the captions from the past previous SOYA awards.
Yes. Oh, yes. So, and that is our friend Meto,
yes,
of Sports Kenya.
Correct.
They are giving an award. So, Apidi, what do we have this year? We have a theme is overcoming adversity through sports. And overcoming adversity through sports, with about 3 pillars that we are anchoring this session that is coming for next year. That is innovation, resilience, and triumph. So yes, there will be some element of recognition, some element of award, but it will not be competitive. You will not be declared the overall sports personality of the year, or sportswoman of the year, sports person with disability of the year, but with just now recognizing, getting to know who did what amid the pandemic. There are people, sportsmen and women, who went out of their way in this pandemic to do certain creative, innovative things. So we've come up with about 5 categories that would be recognized. Remember, this is now just recognition. Innovation is one. Identifying and acknowledging innovative ways sports people handled the pandemic. How did they even train amid the pandemic? How they were running in mass, they were doing this, they had to go to forests that were never inhabited before to just create an enabling environment that will help them to train. So innovative ways of that they handled during the pandemic. The second one is resilience, identifying aspects of people who demonstrated resilience. In these extreme circumstances of COVID-19, are there sportsmen and women who did certain things that would clearly be seen as demonstrating resilience in the midst of an adversity? Then, of course, Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame, remember, Apidi, we normally recognize from past heroics. not current. People who did outstanding work in their heydays. So inducting them in Hall of Fame. So this one would not suffer lack of competitiveness. And then community hero, also picking people who have been, who went out of their way to serve sports in the community amid the pandemic. You see people, there are coaches who still, and I've met our friend Lungao here, there are coaches who went out of their way to still find a way of organizing sessions online, giving tips to their charges, even without necessarily meeting them physically. We would also applaud those. And then, of course, and if there is any outstanding performance that was done, there is a lady who did well in London. There you've just recognized Beatrice of the half marathon
Yes.
For all women. Just some burst of brilliance that emerged amid the pandemic, but which has basically clearly been few and far apart. So those will be recognized. But then now, what is gonna be the anchor of SOYA 2020 would be a symposium. Like we had said earlier, because this has not been a competitive year, we still want to bring the SOYA fraternity under one roof to contemplate sports, now to contemplate the new normal in sports. And so SOYA has been there now for 16 years, yet we have never gotten this opportunity to just interrogate the entire sports arena in terms of pep talk, giving people forum to speak about the issues that affect sports, both positively and negatively, and just creating that forum. So we've identified about 5, actually 8 thematic areas. One is unlike the previous setup where you just have people arriving and then the night of awards, we are going to have this going to be a 2-day event. So people arrive in the venue a whole 2 days in advance. So there is a whole day that is spent on a workshop, symposium, that brings together select sports personalities from across all the disciplines, and then want specialists to come and give conversations. So sports, fame and failure is one topic. How do you handle fame? How do you handle failure? Because when people succeed, we celebrate them, and we don't even sometimes help them on how to carry that fame. So you know, you only have the outstanding people like Eliud who have learned to carry their fame in their shoulders with a lot of grace and a lot of humility. But you see, not everyone will be privileged that way. So we need to train our young sportsmen and women to be able to carry fame with humility, so that they don't shoot to the stars and they are all the shining and what have you, and then they crash because they have not really been assisted to handle fame with grace. Then sports and health, of course now, because of the pandemic, how do you relate the two? Media and personal branding. You know, Abidin, you know more than anyone else the value of personal branding and media suave in the sports arena. Most of the American and footballers, footballers and American sports heroes make millions of dollars outside the track and outside the court for out of endorsements and presence in product endorsements. And you can only do that if you are able to um, be, be well skilled in personal branding and media exposure. So that is something that we would really want to gift our people. Then, of course, there is finance and investment, sports and environment, so that we can also better our environment, tree growing and so on. Mentorship. Also, we need to begin training our young people to relate with more successful mentors, so that it becomes a true relay. You succeed, you hold the other hand, and you pull them up, and then it becomes a relay. And finally, addressing doping issues, sports, culture, and gender issues, and even the place of sports betting in this country. So, and how it relates to supporting sports endeavors. So, a whole day of just people coming together, fraternizing, and receiving knowledge from experts, and then shift into the awards, which is really, like I've said, not awards, but a recognition ceremony that also affords people the opportunity to focus on 2021.
Kaplich, it looks like a very packed, very packed up program. And when I look at, all the topics that you've selected to take the selected athletes through day one workshop, very interesting, because sports fame and failure during these tough times are very, very important and relevant topics. Sports media personality, sports media and personal branding, critical, and as like Kaplich says, internationally, the branding is a very key income earner to major sports personality. Finance and investment are very, very important. With all the fame comes lots of, lots of reckless spend. So how do they continue doing the same? Sports and environment, very key. Environment critical. Sports and mentorship, one key pillar, because you need to hold each other's hands in terms of letting them know the footsteps that they need to follow. Then sports culture, where you have doping, you have betting, very, very important topics to discuss. Overcoming adversity through sports, a very, very good theme that is anchored with three pillars. That's innovation, resilience, and triumph. Very, very good. But let me take you back, Kaplich. We've seen so many athletes during these tough times come out to support communities, coming out and, getting funds, ensuring that communities and even other athletes get something that can keep them going. Are you still going to have, recognition of a community hero, where we've had that in the past? We've had Hall of Fame. Is that still going to be there this time round?
PD, exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. It's actually where I started earlier. After resilience, if you remember, then we went to Hall of Fame, and I told you that Hall of Fame is hardly affected because it's people who did well in their heydays before the advent of COVID-19. And then, but then I also I stopped for a while to discuss community hero and heroines. And this time round, you have correctly said, most of the people we will recognize are athletes themselves, because they went out of their way. Their friends gave them food packages, and they went to their camps, and they were very emotional moments where somebody says, this was all I needed to be able to survive in the camp. You know, sometimes, Apidi, we are, because of the glamorous life that our athletes live out of success, we assume that everyone is sorted. There is a wrong assumption that everyone in the camps is sorted. Not really. There were athletes there, sportsmen, boxers, cyclists, and so on, who were really straining during the COVID-19 period. And you know, especially the young and upcoming athletes or sports people, they are learning to earn their keep as they go up the ladder. So they do not have a lot of resources. So when they were visited in these camps with food packages and some little money here and there, it was really a game changer for them. It enabled them to stay longer in the camps, to stay longer in the training, and keep in shape as they anticipate to be active again next year. So yes, they were active athletes who went after their own and really supported them across the country. These are the ones we honor. These are the ones we applaud, because there was a clear spirit of camaraderie, and and being your brother's keeper, that really came out of the COVID-19 pandemic.
I mean, it was emotional, like you rightly put it, when seeing some of the athletes going out of their way to hold each other's hands and to ensure that everything ran well and smoothly, so that some of the athletes did not feel left out and are completely under lots of trouble during this time. In the past couple
of which is just before,
please
so
go ahead.
which Apidi,
yes,
is really the good thing, because SOYA and all these other sports platforms really are just arenas that we facilitate sports people to triumph, to thrive in the and it's not it gives people, someone like me, a lot of pleasure, the fact that people are coming out on their own and reaching out. So they are not coerced. They are not really being requested. It's such a lovely thing to see.
Well, it is humanly also to mention what Kaplich is talking about. Kaplich, we've seen in the recent past change of venue from Nairobi to Mombasa. Is it something that you are still exploring, that you want to go inter-counties, just asking, or you are looking at during these abnormal times to have it here in the city?
It may change, but the place that is considered, that is in discussion right now, APD, is Naivasha, because of the proximity to Nairobi, and yet at the same time not really. Remember, we want to keep people on theater for 2 days on ground, especially the first day, that we think it's a very important event to get people exposed to knowledge and things that are going to really upskill them for their future. So you don't want a situation where you are at KICC for the symposium and then you receive a phone call and you say, wacha nifike hapa nirudi, naenda hivi na come. And then you
totally agree. I totally agree.
You never really come.
There's always lots of interruption.
But if it is all the way to Naivasha, especially Moi South Road in Naivasha, it may be very difficult to say you are living in a Shapai to come back to Nairobi and come. So, and yet the environment also there is very conducive. It's also, God willing, giving the opportunity for a break for our sports people, because Naivasha is also a tourism place. So there will be then therefore an element of sports tourism that we are giving these venerable sportsmen and women to be able to see that part of the country, enjoy the hippos of like Naivasha, and really also have fun even as they gain knowledge.
Well, a very important aspect in terms of just breaking out of the norm and getting athletes to also another form of tourism, which is sports tourism. Kaplich, in the past as well, we've always had situations where we have a guest personality gracing the occasion from a neighboring country or from the international scene. Are we likely to see the same this time round, just as a way of encouraging our athletes that yes, we are in tough times, it can be done? We've seen many people come through the 3 pillars that you've mentioned, innovation, resilience, and also triumph.
Yes, Apidi, that is still on the cards, on the table. It's the panel of judges and experts at SOYA are still contemplating whether to give that honors to a Kenyan celebrity, of which we have no shortage of, or get somebody from the international arena. That will be communicated as we say, by and by.
And as we look at that, I mean, I personally like the whole idea that you are also exploring options of getting a Kenyan personality, which can also be good on the card. Like you mentioned earlier on, we are trying to live in a new norm,
Yes.
and this is the new norm. When people say that not much has been happening from sports, the same sportsmen and sportswomen have been very busy helping each other
Yes.
in terms of, just getting off the pace. So as we look at all this, Kaplich, you've unpacked day one, full of lots of programs, full of lots of workshop sessions for the athletes. What about day two now? Is it still going to be a day event, or you want to make it an evening get-together like we've seen in the past, where now you recognize, not award, but recognize, like you've mentioned, some of the exemplary performance or exemplary, deeds that many of the athletes have been doing?
Because the proposal is to give people a bit of some getaway. The idea then would be the day two becomes a day of rest and excursion, seeing around in the morning hours. For those who remember, there's therefore going to be two sets of attendees. There will be the first select group of symposium attendees, and then there will be people who will have been invited directly just to come and for the recognition ceremony on day two. So there will be a second batch of people then who, that's at least how the program is being drawn now. It could change. And so if it changes, don't crucify me. It's never about Kaplich.
Yes.
So, so there will then be the evening event in the tradition of SOYA. And then the people will then spend the night there and depart the following day.
In terms of panel of judges, are we still going to see the journalists coming up as the panel, or you're going to take a different approach in terms of getting, to know who are these exemplary performance, not necessarily in sports, but they have achieved so much. How are you looking at separating, to get to know who was, the standing one out of all the rest? Are you still going to have the panel of judges?
The panel largely remains the same, but remember, PD,
Correct.
that the panel has always been as a mixture of serving sports journalists across the media houses,
Correct.
plus a sprinkling from people from outside.
Correct.
Who are not really in sports journalism, just to backstop the rest of the expertise that is coming from sports journalists. So yes, so we normally benefit from non-sports journalists in terms of the composition of the panel.
In terms of submission of materials, athletes around, are you looking at opening up a site where athletes can submit what they've been doing in terms of keeping themselves fit, how they've managed to be resilient through this difficult period? Some that probably we as the media or the Kenyan fraternity could not have heard of during the tough times. How are you planning to get all this?
Of course, there is a website, soya.com, soyaawards.com, that is always the first port of call for posting and so on. But we are also going to, when we launch the actual nomination process, we will then inform the members of the public that this is going to be a very different orientation of SOYA 2020, and these are the parameters under which it will be unveiled. These are the ways and means of being able to participate, so that we can have as many people as possible presenting nominees and people to be recognized, so that it is more an aspect of public participation, because this is one that would require that a lot, because Kenyans were here during the pandemic. They are still here, so they are the ones best also to help us to
give you their view
to who who deserves this recognition more than another. But at the end of the day, like we said, it's a recognition, but not a competitive award ceremony.
Well, like you rightly put it, one beautiful thing about SOYA Awards is there has never been controversies around this. Normally, merit carries the day, and every athlete, is given what is due for them in terms of being recognized as the best, and that's one key thing. As we look at starting to wind up this discussion, Kaplich, what message would you have for sports men and sports women in the country at the moment, listening to you in terms of SOYA Awards? Very, very important and good to hear that, yes, you still have plans, and not just plans, but very, very solid plans for SOYA Awards next year. What message would you have for them right now?
That this is a new normal in the sports arena, yet sports who have always been on the forefront of carrying our flag, raising our flag very high up there, continentally, globally. It is that time again when the sportsmen and women must lead the way in taking Kenyans out of the pandemic and showing resilience, showing triumph, showing that competitiveness again, even as we slowly come out of the pandemic. Obviously, there must always be caution. It's always best to live to fight another day, live to run another day, live to accomplish in the sports arena another day. So we wouldn't want to sacrifice our people to the COVID pandemic just because we want to see winnings. Health first, and then slowly we can pick up and move into the competitive arena, hopefully next year and the years to come. But our sports people, the idea is to say, keep hope alive. Keep hope alive, because if they are not the ones best to show hope, who else? Sportsmen and women like you and I know are one of the most unselfish people. They always very sacrificial. So this is the time that again the onus is on them to show the way out of the pandemic, but yet with caution and with just to keep their health first, because God will always provide another opportunity to triumph.
Kaplich, as you say that, I just feel it when you say that, they influence so many people in the country. It is a fact, because when they are out there running, what they say, what they do, millions of Kenyans are glued on TV watching them. So they can play a very big part in terms of sending and giving Kenyans hope that, yes, it can be done. Kaplich, have you decided on the likely dates that this might happen in January?
It's going to be the second week of January.
Second week of January, it is 2021, and looking forward to the same, as we all know that we always recognize our athletes when they go out there and exceptionally perform in terms of positioning this country as a sporting nation. But let's not forget that Kaplich Barsito and team, to me, have always been heroes and heroines in terms of going out there and putting up such an event in terms of just recognizing the whole, sports fraternity in the country, not just athletics, basketball, hockey, football, name them. It's always been across the entire sporting discipline in the country. Of course, SOYA Awards with founder, member Paul Tergat, who is the National Olympic Committee of Kenya president at the moment. A very, very noble initiative indeed. Kaplich, we appreciate you making time to be with us, and we hope that as we draw nearer to the date, we'll invite you again in studio to give us the firmed plans as they are. But as you rightly put it, as at now, There might be changes here and there which will be accommodated as you move on. But as we get closer, we will invite you to give us the firmed plan for SOYA Awards 20. Do we say 2020 or 2021? SOYA Awards 2020.
And Olympics?
Oh my goodness.
Is it 2020 or 2021? Anyway, it is
That's
okay.
a good one.
It's SOYA 2020 and happening as usual
Correct.
in 2021, but in a very new and different orientation. Thank you so much. Thank you, Apidi, for having me, and it's always a pleasure to chat with you on sports issues. And we are one of the people who has really kept your passion aflame.
Thank you
Yes.
so much. And Kaplich, as you wrap up these very interesting topics that came up, confirm that you will have professionals or experts to take the athletes through this. Just to mention some of the topics: sports fame and failure. Some will grow to fame today, tomorrow they fall down in disgrace. Then there is sports and health, a very critical angle in sports. Sports media personality, sports media and personal branding, a key aspect. Finance and investment, couldn't have been put better. Sports and environment. Environment is changing, and sports can actually play an active role in terms of changing the same. Sports and mentorship, critical. Then sports culture, where you will have things like doping and betting. Please confirm that you will have professionals or experts to address these individual topics as you've planned for them in the workshop in day one.
That's the idea, to bring actually very, very experienced experts from across each of those topics to come and speak. So if it's finance and investment, it's not Kaplich.
If it is sports and health.
Yes, again, it can't be me. It's people who really must be well steeped in that area.
Thank you very much, Kaplich Barsito, who is the coordinator, Sports Personality of the Year Awards at SOYA. Thank you very much for making time to be with us this afternoon.
Asante sana.